Welcome back in. It's the halftime show. Tyler Head, Mike Uva hanging out with you here on your Thursday, 72 days away from South Carolina kicking off its season against Old Dominion on August 31st as we navigate through the dog days of summer. Here to chat a little bit of college football from the SEC Network is Chris Doering. Chris, first of all, appreciate a little bit of your time this afternoon. How do you spend the college football offseason and getting eventually ramped up for the season to begin once again?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys know or not, but my schedule during the season is kind of busy. I leave every Thursday night from Gainesville to fly up to Charlotte, fly back every Monday. So only 3 nights at home a week during that 3 nights. So I always look forward to the travel all over New York earlier this week. I'm in Miami right now. I don't have anything to really expand the battery, but I'm hoping it's Allison and well.
Chris, I'll tell you what I'm disappointed in. I know you juggle another job. I'm disappointed that you haven't come to the rescue, and I know they just got eliminated, but you didn't come to the rescue for Florida in the Jello Shot Challenge. I was very disappointed to see the number that they put up. I thought they were going to be better.
Well, first and foremost, I'm very embarrassed for my alma mater that sports it was. It's a reflection on 2 things. I guess you spin it, maybe, try to paint it in the best possible light. The embarrassing part, one, is that we don't travel very well out to Omaha. As passionate as this conference is about baseball, for Florida to not have a better representation in Omaha is embarrassing. And here I speak a little bit out of both sides of my mouth because I've never been to Omaha. Florida's been to 9 of the last 14 College World Series, and yet I haven't made it even though it's on my bucket list. So I guess I'm to blame for that. But, yeah, the Jello shot thing is something that is right up our alley, I guess. I mean, maybe the way we spend it is that, if we're going to go to the bar, we're going to do tequila shots and not pretend candy cigarette shots. But other than that, I don't know if there's any way that I can paint it any less embarrassing than what it was.
Now, let's say you were out there for an entire week. How many Jello shots do you think you could contribute to that board yourself?
Well, I proposed this to the manager of Rocco's. We had him on the show a week or so ago, and I actually think there should be some sort of consumption police, some requirement, not just to buy them and throw them away, but you actually have to imbibe. I don't know if you can imbibe Jello shots, chew up the Jello shots, whatever it is. I think you should have to consume the Jello shots for them to be able to count towards your total.
It's kind of like the hot dog contest where they make.
I don't want to avoid the question. For a whole week, though, I think I'm probably good. I think I could probably knock down 20 a day. So, if I'm there for 10 days, if Florida goes all the way, 200 Jello shots I could probably contribute.
That's a pretty solid contribution. I like your idea, though. It's like the hot dog contest where they make sure you eat the dog and the bun before they flip the number over.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair point.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's all these guys want to throw their credit card down. You want to impress me, actually do those shots that you buy.
Talking to Chris Doering of the SEC Network. Again, football season only a couple of months away. We've talked so much about the change in college football. Obviously, Texas and Oklahoma coming in to the conference. The SEC is already looked at as the toughest league in all of football. How much tougher does it get just adding those 2 teams in, as well as eliminating divisions, kind of creating this mismatch of schedules across the board?
Yeah, I think when the news came out, what was that? We were at Media Days 2 or 3 years ago. I don't even remember at this point. But when the rumors started swirling about Texas and Oklahoma coming, it was exciting. It was exciting because of the brand and what those 2 historic programs mean to college football. But I think both programs were a ways away from looking like they were SEC ready. I think at the time I said, hey, you drop those 2 teams in the league and they're probably middle of the pack. Fast forward to the beginning of last season when Texas goes into Tuscaloosa and absolutely beats up the Tide at home, something that never happens, and owned them on both lines of scrimmage, looked faster. It was a remarkable illustration of how far Texas had come. And I think if you look at Oklahoma, too, Brent Venables did a lot in his second year to upgrade the lines of scrimmage, something we all know is important when you're playing in the SEC. So I do think these teams are much better than maybe they were, a couple years ago when the announcement came out. I do also think there'll be more of an acclimation kind of period than most people think. The grind of playing an SEC schedule is something I've talked about dating back to my days playing in the league in the 90s, and certainly it's gotten even more physical and even more challenging with the addition of Texas A&M and Missouri, and now with Texas and Oklahoma. But I really believe that it's not only the physical impact, the physical cumulative buildup that you get, but also the emotional draining aspect of having to play the SEC schedule and getting your emotions up every single week for challenges that you play within this conference. So it's going to be an incredibly difficult 16-team league, especially with the elimination of the divisions and what that's going to do and changing up the scheduling. But, I don't know. You win an SEC championship now, you've really been able to do something between the level of competition and having to be one of the top two teams instead of being, the division winner that you've had to be since 1992.
Chris, we were talking about this before, that with the expansion of the college football playoff, combine that with the fact that, like you said, there's no divisions anymore. There's just 16 teams in the conference. Certainly you're going to see a number of teams who have multiple losses make the college football playoff. From an SEC standpoint, and I don't know if it's the exact same, but we use the example of Florida with baseball. I mean, there was an argument as to whether or not they should make the NCAA tournament. They made the tournament, and one big reason why was because of the fact that they play in the toughest conference in baseball. From a football standpoint, how much of an impact can that have on the SEC when you add these two teams in there? And do you see a scenario where there could be some years where you have not just 2 or 3 teams from the SEC making the college football playoff, but potentially even 4?
Yeah, I mean, think about that. Like, we're about to crown the 5th different national champion from the SEC in college baseball coming up here over the weekend into Monday. And the same is true for college football. The run that the SEC had been on with so many different teams winning national championships speaks to the quality of football and the difficulty playing in this conference. I think reputation matters. Reputation matters when we're talking about the NCAA basketball tournament selection committee. I think it certainly matters, as we saw with Florida getting in and on Ole Miss winning a national championship a couple years ago with maybe them being the last team in the field. And I think it matters. The SEC has gotten the benefit of the doubt a couple times when it comes to including a non-SEC champion into the playoff field as an at-large team. It's going to continue to swing the biggest sword. I think the addition of Texas and Oklahoma is obviously a subtraction for the Big 12, and so I think it's going to be a very similar type situation to what we saw in Omaha, where the field every year is made up of primarily SEC and Big Ten teams, and it's going to be one of those two conferences that probably win more times than not.
And talking to Chris Doering from the SEC Network, looking at this from a South Carolina perspective, and in the 3 years under Shane Beamer, there have been a team that's kind of treaded water in that middle to lower end of the SEC. How much harder does that now make their, potential climb to the top of the conference, which is obviously the goal when Beamer was hired here, now that things get so much tougher across the board?
Yeah, South Carolina's always been in a tough spot, right? I mean, it's a tough school in terms of talent within the state. That back-to-back 11-win run that Coach Spurrier went on was largely due to having guys like Jadeveon Clowney and Alshon Jeffrey and Marcus Lattimore, Stephon Gilmore, all being South Carolina homegrown players that not only stayed within the state but went to Carolina instead of going to Clemson. So you have to have some unique times where there's a lot of talent that you're able to get to come from within the state. Shane Beamer's done a great job of making that program something that's become a little more national in terms of their recruiting reach. But I also think that Coach Beamer's a little bit of a victim of his own success. I think you saw the same thing with Sam Pittman in Arkansas. If you win too fast, too soon, the bar gets set a little too high. And I think the nature of them overachieving in his first 2 seasons made the fall in 2023 even more difficult to palate because of people's expectations. And hope is a very powerful emotion. And so I know that this time of year hope springs eternal, and I'm hopeful that South Carolina program can bounce back. But it is inherently challenging playing in the SEC and having to deal with kind of what you've seen from a lot of different teams, with the inability to be consistent. I don't think you can really build a program anymore. It's all about hey, let's put a run together for a 1-year period, the way that we saw Ole Miss or Missouri come out of nowhere. I don't know if South Carolina can get to 11 wins this year, but I do think they'll be better. And I'm kind of excited about what the offense will look like with a very different kind of quarterback at the helm. With Spencer Rattler, I thought he was tremendous the last few years, but I think it's going to be exciting to see a little bit more run orientation with the quarterback involved going forward this season.
Yeah, let's go off from that. Talking about Lenore Sellers, different type of quarterback, different style. But the thing that stands out to me more than anything is the fact that this is his first opportunity, right? Outside of some garbage time last season, we really haven't seen him play. As a former wide receiver, Chris, what can the wide receivers do? And obviously there's a lot of new faces in that room. I mean, you have 50% of those players in that room on scholarship. They're new faces. So what can wide receivers do to help out a young quarterback, especially early on to start the season?
Yeah, there's a lot of time that's being spent right now behind the scenes where fans aren't aware of the work that's going in. Receivers and quarterbacks getting a lot of throws together this time of year. The quarterbacks organizing 7-on-7. I know there's a little bit more opportunity within the rules for coaches to be with the players than it used to be, but there's a lot of the onus that falls on guys doing things on their own time and with their own organization. So it is important that these guys are developing a little bit of a chemistry to make sure they're on the same page as they go forward. But, I think the biggest thing I look at South Carolina, it's like, golly, let's just stay healthy, and I know there's not a lot you can do about that. And some people, point to the strength and conditioning program when it comes to injuries, but sometimes you just get a bad break. And last year was really challenging, as we all know, for South Carolina with the number of injuries they had at key positions particularly. But, with the silver lining, a lot of young guys that got an opportunity to play, and I think the program will benefit because of that experience that maybe came a little prematurely for some.
All right, good stuff, Chris. We appreciate your time once again. Continue to enjoy the off season. Can't wait to see you and the crew behind the desk when the fall rolls around.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys in Dallas here soon, man. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Again,
right,
Chris
Chris
Doering from the SEC Network. Come back, wrap up hour number 2. Hit the Firehouse Up text of the hour. Mike Uva from Gamecock Central. Tyler Head hanging out on your Thursday here on The Game.